Hi church, over the next few weeks we wanted to take a moment and hear from some of the incredible people in our church and be encouraged around 3 key areas that we're wanting to strengthen as foundational components for our community. As we've reflected on foundations, we've explored the questions: what are the things that we need to adopt from other Christian traditions that can help empower us to better follow Christ? What are the things that were a part of our origin story that we need to reimagine and reinvigorate? What are the things that God has entrusted us with as a church to steward faithfully and to contribute to the broader landscape of what He is doing in our cities? Each week over the next 3 weeks, we're going to be encouraged around one of those areas. This week, we want to talk about formation.
Community back then for me looked like actually getting to know people. Like, we were new to the church, and for me I could not have it feel like home until I was connected with people. And he was fine at first just going to church and leaving after service, and he's like, "What? The message was great. I know what Hillsong's about. I don't really need to connect." But I told him that's the only way that I'm gonna be able to stay here in this massive church is to find my community. So we started to serve, and shortly after that we found our really good friends that are still very close to us 12 years later.
Yep. She got her own backload because I got us into church without her knowing it. She got us serving without me knowing
There
it.
you go.
Woke up one morning and I'm like, "Why are we up so early?" She's like, "Because we're serving at church this week."
Marriage. Right now, we serve as community pastors for the Upper West Side. We look after Connect group leaders.
In there, I guess we're involved in marriage prep as well, though that's kind of changed a little bit, but we really enjoy that as well.
This journey has been a long one. I think, it's 5 years now. 5 years ago, we were happy going along, being married probably for like 7 years at that point. And we were like, well, might as well try to have a kid. And so we tried, and we got pregnant right away. Like, it was like within like the first month of trying. And so I was like, oh, that was easy. Great. And then unfortunately we miscarried. And then everybody was like, oh, don't worry, it'll happen. And they prayed, and they weren't wrong. We got pregnant again, and then we miscarried again. For me, it was just one of those things where it's like, yeah, it happens all the time, and you keep hearing that. But then it was like crickets for a long time. Like, nothing happened for some years, and I was just confused by it. It was right before the pandemic was when we got pregnant and miscarried. All through the pandemic, just nothing was working. And I was like, what is going on? I was like, I don't understand this, God. I don't believe that you would have it happen so easily and then not allow me to carry full term. So 2 years ago, we were at one of our like church picnic functions, and this really cute young lady and her sister, her name is Renita, and her sister Rachel, they were like new to church. And so we met them and we just had a little chat. And so as we're actually walking to Salvation Army for church on that Sunday, we were walking in the wrong direction. We've been there so many times. And then I was like, why are we walking in the wrong direction? So we see Renita. And she's like, yeah, it's this way. And so we end up walking with her. And during the service, she leans over to me. She's like, can I pray for you after? I was like, yeah, I'm never going to say no to prayer. And so after service, we go to the bathroom. Everybody's just like flailing around, just in the middle of like the women's bathroom. And she was very bold, but she was also very nervous. She's like, I don't do this, but I feel like God is telling me I should pray for you. And so she does. And she was like, I just get a sense that God really loves you and that He sees you crying and questioning. And I don't even want to ask you this, but are you trying to have a baby? And I was like, oh, yes, I am. And she was like, oh, okay. And you could tell she was a little like taken aback that she was actually right. But she's like, okay, well, God is saying that he sees you and He loves you. And I don't know why, but I see the number 42 and I see 2. So that was 2 years ago. Fast forward to this year where I turned 42 in January, telling my age. So I was like, all right, God, I'm going to give you this year. At this point, I didn't think I was going to have kids. Like, we wanted kids after 40. We were like, okay, if we don't have kids, that's God's will. It's like, I'll give you this year. I'm going to see a specialist again. If they tell me something, I know it's from you. If they don't, then we'll keep it moving. So I went to the specialist, and she was like, okay, well, let's try some things. She's like, I'm going to take your blood. And so she takes my blood, and she calls me, and she's like, oh, you're pregnant. So after 4 years of trying and nothing happening. And I turned 42 in January. I go see the specialist and I'm pregnant. And I told Renita, of course, she's the first person I told, just because I think that holy boldness to be able to go and say, this is scary. I don't do this ever. I don't speak into people's lives like that and prophesy. And she did. And so the fact that it came to pass was pretty amazing. And you just need people who are that brave and bold to speak into your life. We credit Renita for a lot of things because I held on to that prophecy for so many years when I was like struggling to hold on, and it just gave me strength. It was oftentimes I would like go back to what Mary said. She like held that thing in her heart, and that's what I did for so long. Those words that Renita spoke over us, and right now our baby's due November 18th. And I was gonna put the date in the calendar. And then I went to the calendar and I saw that 2 days after that, November 20th, I told myself to read Genesis 18, 13 through 14. And so I was like, oh, I guess I put that in there last year. And so I read it, and it said it was when Sarah was being told by the angel, by this time next year, you'll have a son. It's pretty amazing that it's about to happen. I'd like to encourage people by saying that the God in the Bible and Jesus in the Bible, they're real, and they're still doing miracles in our lives and strengthening us through each other.
We've been through some interesting phases in our church, clearly, the last couple of years, and the things that remain are really that family. Where we are now seems to me like it's a place of new growth, and we don't have to go back to what we were. We're not trying to re-achieve those things. We're forging a new path.
What I've learned all these years as a Christian is that your foundation, what or who you build your faith on, will be tested by hardships. There are examples all through the Bible, so I don't know why we're surprised when it happens to us. I was. It's through those hardships that's where you experience spiritual formation. It's where you're able to take a new grip with tired hands and strengthen your weak knees so you're able to stand with others in faith and believe for the miraculous. God is always working.
Formation can be a nebulous word. I'm sorry. Maybe nebulous is a nebulous word. I apologize again. What we're talking about is who we are becoming. Our character, our nature, our values, our heart. How is that being shaped? And what is shaping it? And what is the trajectory of that shaping? What is the direction of the formation our character is headed in? Another phrase that's sometimes used in church circles to point to the same thing is discipleship. Ultimately, our greatest good for ourselves personally and for our world is that we might place our lives in God's hands, that we might take up our cross and follow Jesus, and in so doing experience His grace as He transforms us. Matthew 11 in the Message puts it like this: "Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace." James K.A. Smith in Imagining the Kingdom points out that we are already being formed, whether we know it or not, by the world around us, the culture that we are immersed in, from the frenetic pace of constant hustling to the shows we watch, to the music we listen to, the example and proclamation of the lives we follow on socials. And that formation has its own trajectory for us. It's taking us somewhere, often towards fear and insecurity, impatience, perfectionism, and an insatiable desire for more. And that sometimes takes us to purchase something or something similar. However, if we pay attention to the tangible practices we're engaged with, the rhythms that God created us for, and not just how much we know, our formation can take a different path. Ruth Haley Barton puts it like this: "I cannot transform myself or anyone else for that matter. What I can do is create the conditions in which spiritual transformation can take place by developing and maintaining a rhythm of spiritual practices that keep me open and available to God." Gathering for corporate worship is a significant part of that. So is how we rest and what delight looks like. Space for silence and prayer, meditation on God's word, practices of examining our hearts and of gratitude. Many of these practices are explored in the courses Emotionally Healthy Spirituality and Emotionally Healthy Relationships, and we would strongly encourage anyone to be a part of those courses as they help us put together what's been known traditionally in the church as a rule of life, a way of thinking about the rhythms in our lives. We don't get there overnight, but it's progress over perfection. What is the trajectory that our formation or transformation is on? We often have goals in life for what we want to achieve. However, even more importantly, it's the rhythms in our life that will impact who we are becoming. James Clear in Atomic Habits says, "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems." Let's have some systems in our lives, some rhythms, some practices that position us to abide in God and be transformed by Him.